Boarding an airplane can be a terrifying experience for some. Whether it's a fear of heights or claustrophobia, many people can't fly. But with the following cases of aircraft that did not necessarily crash, but instead disappeared entirely along with all of those on board, perhaps some people's fears of flying is warranted. Here are 10 mysterious aircraft disappearances. Number 10 is Vareg Flight 967. Vareg Flight 967, a Boeing 707-379C, mysteriously vanished without a trace on January 30th, 1979. The international cargo flight took off from Narita International Airport in Japan, scheduled to arrive at Rio de Janeiro Galeão International Airport in Brazil. The aircraft was carrying a valuable cargo of 53 paintings by artist Manabu Mabe from an exhibition in Tokyo that was worth over $1.2 million. The plane, captained by Gilberto Araujo da Silva, had 6 crew members on board at the time of the disappearance. 30 minutes after takeoff, radio contact with the flight was lost. The aircraft was supposed to make a stopover at Los Angeles International Airport in California, but unfortunately, the plane and the 6 crew members on board never made it to their destination. To this day, no one knows what happened to that flight or the $1.2 million of cargo on board. Number 9 is Pakistan International Airlines Flight 404. On August 25, 1989, after taking off from the city of Gilgit, Pakistan, International Airlines Flight 404, a Fokker F-27 Friendship aircraft, disappeared without a trace. About 5 minutes after takeoff, a routine radio transmission was made by one of the pilots aboard the plane, but it was the last communication that was ever heard from them. The aircraft never made it to its destination, the Pakistan capital city of Islamabad, and is believed by some to have crashed somewhere in the Himalayas. Another theory about what happened is that the plane crossed something called the Line of Control, which was actually shot down by the Indian military. Unfortunately, no wreckage was ever found to prove the real fate of Flight 404, as well as the 54 passengers on board it. Number 8 is Indian Air Force AN-32. On July 22, 2016, while flying over the Bay of Bengal, en route to Port Blair in the Andaman and Nicobar Islands, an Indian Air Force Antonov AN-32 transport aircraft and 29 people who were on board vanished into thin air. The plane took off from Tambaram Air Force Station at 8:30 a.m. At 9:12 a.m., radar contact with the twin-engine turboprop transport aircraft was lost, though it's estimated that the plane was 280 kilometers east of Chennai. A massive search, the largest that India has ever seen to be exact, was finally called off in September of 2016, and no evidence from the missing aircraft was ever recovered. The whereabouts of the Antonov AN-32 is still a mystery to this day, and the 29 passengers on board the aircraft are all presumed to be dead. Number 7 is Flight 19. During a routine training mission on December 5, 1945, 5 Grumman TBM Avenger torpedo bombers took off in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, only to vanish inside the Bermuda Triangle. Along with the 5 planes, the 14 airmen on board them also disappeared, never to be heard from again. It's said that serious navigational issues around the Bermuda Triangle knocked the bombers off course over the Atlantic Ocean, where they ran out of fuel, but no wreckage from any of the 5 aircrafts have ever been recovered. Unfortunately, the 14 airmen were not the only mysterious disappearance surrounding the torpedo bombers. While in search of the fate of those missing, a Martin PBM Mariner flying boat and the entire 13-man crew on board also mysteriously vanished. Number 6 is a stolen Boeing 727-223 Angola plane. On May 25, 2003, at the 4 de Fevereiro airport in Luanda, Angola, a previously decommissioned Boeing 727-223 made its way down the runway without clearance and proceeded to take off, never to be seen again. Authorities claim that the plane was stolen by an American pilot named Ben Padilla, along with the help of John Mutantu, a mechanic from the Republic of Congo. However, neither one of these men were certified to fly the massive plane. The aircraft's former operator, American Airlines, teamed up with the United States Federal Bureau of Investigation, as well as the Central Intelligence Agency, in hope of finding the stolen plane. But despite an extensive worldwide search, the whereabouts of this aircraft and the two men responsible for its theft are still a mystery. The American government getting involved has led many to believe that this could be an issue of national security, or perhaps something much larger. Number 5 is the Flying Tiger Line Flight 739. On March 16, 1962, the Flying Tiger Line Flight 739, a Lockheed Super Constellation plane used for the transportation of troops from Travis Air Force Base in California to Saigon, Vietnam, mysteriously vanished. Along with the plane, the 107 passengers on board were never to be seen again. The aircraft was on its way to Clark Air Base in the Philippines. After refueling in Guam, the pilot reported no trouble about 80 minutes after taking off. But that was the last communication ever received from him. One of the largest searches ever conducted in the Pacific Ocean covered more than 322,000 square kilometers of water. However, after 8 days, rescuers recovered no evidence of the aircraft or its passengers, and the search was called off. To this day, the families of those missing are still looking for answers. However, they are no closer. Number 4 is Star Aerial. The Star Aerial, an Avro Tudor plane owned and operated by British South American Airways, vanished somewhere over the Atlantic Ocean during its flight from Bermuda to Kingston, Jamaica on January 17, 1949. There were 7 crew members and 13 passengers on board the Star Aerial at the time of its disappearance, and none of them had been heard from since. Adding to the mystery surrounding the plane's disappearance was the fair weather that day, as well as the last transmission received from the flight indicating good visibility and smooth flying conditions. An extensive search that included 70 airplanes and spanned over 805 kilometers executed by the United States Navy recovered no evidence of the Star Aerial or its passengers. What happened is still today unknown. Number 3 is the Star Tiger. On January 30th, 1948, an Avro Tudor 4 aircraft flying from Santa Maria in the Azores to Bermuda mysteriously vanished. At the time of its disappearance, the Star Tiger had 11 transatlantic flights under its belt. This plane saw skies for the very first time on November 4th, 1947, and by that time had accumulated around 575 hours of flying time. It's believed by some that severe weather conditions, including very high winds, forced the aircraft off course, and it likely ran out of fuel somewhere over the Atlantic Ocean. This disappearance gave birth to the legends surrounding the mystery of the Bermuda Triangle. Investigators concluded that all 31 people who were on board were killed in a crash, yet still to this day no wreckage has ever been recovered. What happened to all of those on board? No one knows, but what is certain is that this added significantly to the mystery and legend of the Bermuda Triangle. Number 2 is Malaysia Airlines Flight MH370. On March 8, 2014, Malaysia Airlines Flight MH370, a Boeing 777-200ER, took off from Kuala Lumpur International Airport in Malaysia en route to Beijing Capital International Airport in China. Shortly after taking off, contact with the aircraft was lost. Final radar screens showed the plane veered off course for an unknown reason, before suddenly vanishing 370 kilometers northwest of Penang Island in Malaysia. The search for the aircraft became the most expensive search in the entire history of aviation, mainly focusing on the Andaman Seas. However, despite the efforts, sadly, the airplane and all 227 passengers and 12 crew members that were on board were never found. All of those missing are presumed dead. And number 1 is Amelia Earhart. This is easily the most famous plane disappearance in history, and happens to be the story of the first woman to fly across the Atlantic Ocean. On July 2nd, 1937, 39-year-old Amelia Earhart, a best-selling author and the founder of an organization for female pilots, and her navigator Fred Nguyen, took off from Lae Airfield in New Guinea in a Lockheed L-10 Electrica plane. Their original destination was Holland Island. Unfortunately, they never landed there. Earhart was attempting to circumnavigate the Earth and was nearing the end of that journey when she suddenly disappeared. The most expensive search the United States had ever conducted up until that point was held, but it was unsuccessful. To this day, despite a number of theories, what exactly happened to her and her co-pilot, as well as the plane itself, remains unknown.